Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're exploring episode 7 of the MUMEx podcast.
MUMEx.
Yeah, it stands for Music Multiverse Exploration. It's created by Sir Louis Siciliano. And this episode's really ambitious.
Ambitious how?
Well, he tackles a new approach to music education.
Okay.
But then he goes on to highlight these fascinating connections between music and math. And then he even touches on these bigger picture ideas.
Like what?
He has this idea for a dignity hotel, and even talks about something he calls a quantum revolution. It's a wild ride.
Wow, that does sound pretty wide-ranging.
It is. So to kick things off, let's just start with the basics. What is MUMEx?
Right, so MUMEx, Music Multiverse Exploration, that's Sir Louis Siciliano's approach to music education.
Yeah.
It's all designed to foster a lifelong love of music and a deep understanding of its power.
I like that.
And what's really interesting is that it's structured around the 4 stages of child development.
Oh, wow. So from infancy to adulthood. Can you give me an example? What would one of these lessons actually look like?
Absolutely. So imagine you walk into a room and it's full of colorful instruments like maracas, tambourines, xylophones.
I picture it.
So this would be, for the first stage, sensimotorio, for babies, 0 to 2 years old. And they'd be encouraged to just explore these instruments, shaking them, banging them, discovering the different sounds.
That makes sense.
And all this playful exploration, it helps develop their sensory perception and motor coordination.
Yeah, so they're learning through play.
Exactly. And then as children move into the next stage, preoperatorio. This is between 2 and 7 years old.
Okay.
Now the focus shifts. We want to encourage imagination and emotional expression.
Okay.
So this might involve dancing to music that evokes different feelings, or building instruments out of everyday objects, like cardboard boxes or something, or even listening to stories told through sound and timbre.
So using music to tell stories.
Yes. The whole idea is to use music as a tool for self-expression and exploration.
So it's building on that early sensory experience.
Precisely. And then we move into the operazioni concrete stage. This one's for kids 7 to 11.
Gotcha.
Now the focus shifts again to developing logical thinking and cooperation.
So more structure.
Yeah, you could say that. So, for example, children might form a classroom orchestra.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, they learn to play together and understand musical sequences. Sir Louis Siciliano even suggests incorporating mathematical concepts into this stage, like using beats to teach about fractions.
Oh, wow. So it's really interdisciplinary.
Exactly. It's about integrating music with other areas of learning.
I'm seeing a pattern here. Each stage is getting more and more complex.
You got it.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the final stage, operazioni formali.
For the older kids.
Yeah, this one's designed for 11 and up. And here we emphasize abstract thinking and individual creativity.
Okay.
So this could involve working with music software, or maybe analyzing complex musical pieces, or even jamming together to compose music in real time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the goal is to really encourage students to think critically about music and to explore their own creative voices, and ultimately to kind of push the boundaries of what's possible.
That's amazing. So MUMEx, it takes this holistic approach, nurturing musical development from infancy all the way to adulthood.
Precisely.
I'm curious, where did Sir Louis Siciliano draw inspiration for all this?
Well, he was inspired by educational pioneers like Maria Montessori, Rudolf Steiner, and George Gurdjieff.
Big names.
Yeah, for sure. You see, these thinkers, they emphasize learning through experience and also spiritual development through music.
Okay.
And that idea of integrating body, mind, and emotions. All these principles are woven into MUMEx.
So he's drawing from these different educational philosophies.
Exactly. He also mentions John Cage and Brian Eno as influences.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, particularly for their exploration of silence, ambient sound, and generative music. He sees these concepts as really important for expanding our understanding of sound and its possibilities.
That's cool. I like how he's weaving together these different influences.
Yeah.
So speaking of expanding our understanding of sound, this episode takes a bit of an unexpected turn.
Oh.
Yeah, he starts talking about number families, which is not something you typically associate with music.
I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Well, he uses it to illustrate the beauty and diversity of mathematical concepts.
Okay.
And one example he gives, this might ring a bell, is Fibonacci numbers.
Oh, yeah, I remember those.
Each number in the sequence is the sum of the 2 preceding ones.
Right, so it's like 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, and so on.
Exactly. And get this, these numbers, they pop up in music too.
Really?
Yeah, so for example, the arrangement of musical sections or even the duration of notes can sometimes follow this Fibonacci pattern. It creates a sense of natural balance and flow in the music.
That's fascinating. I never would have guessed.
It really makes you wonder what other hidden mathematical patterns are lurking in the music we listen to.
Right. Like, what else are we missing?
Exactly. Now, he doesn't stop there. He also mentions perfect numbers.
Perfect numbers.
Yeah, those are numbers that are equal to the sum of their proper divisors. Apparently, they're pretty rare.
Oh, wow.
And then there are abundant and deficient numbers, where the sum of the divisors is either greater than or less than the number itself.
Okay.
And it's this interplay of these mathematical concepts that he finds really fascinating.
Yeah, I can see why.
It really gets you thinking about how these patterns might translate into the realm of sound.
It's like a whole other level of musical analysis.
Right. And speaking of unexpected connections, he goes on to talk about fractals.
Fractals, those infinitely complex shapes.
The very same. And get this, he wants us to imagine hearing a fractal.
Wait, what? So you're saying that, like, the Mandelbrot set can be heard as a melody?
That's exactly what he's suggesting. It's all about connecting those visual patterns to musical concepts.
My mind is blown right now.
I know, it's wild, right? He describes the Mandelbrot set as a melody that changes subtly each time it repeats. It's like a musical theme and variations, but on a cosmic scale.
I'm trying to wrap my head around that.
I know. And he gives other examples, too. Like he compares the Sierpinski triangle, another famous fractal, to a musical piece where notes are gradually omitted.
Okay.
So it creates this really mesmerizing interplay of sound and silence. It's like listening to a sonic representation of that fractal shape.
Wow. Are there any more examples?
Yeah, he also talks about the curve of Kolk. He imagines that as a musical phrase that kind of expands in complexity with each repetition while always holding on to its core idea.
So like a simple melody that becomes more intricate over time.
Precisely. These connections might seem a little abstract at first, but they open up a whole new way of thinking about music.
I can see that.
It's like music, just like fractals, can be this portal to infinite complexity and beauty.
It's beautiful.
So are you ready for the next mind-blowing concept?
Hit me with it.
Well, he introduces a term that he actually coined himself, ecotropia.
Ecotropia. What's that all about?
It's basically a deep dive into the impact of sound on psychic energy. He pulls from thinkers from all sorts of different fields who've investigated the relationship between music, energy, consciousness, and even the cosmos.
Wow.
And he name drops some pretty big names.
Like who?
He mentions Carl Jung, Brian Eno, Sri Aurobindo, Sun Ra. I mean, it's a who's who of people who've really grappled with music's deeper meaning.
Wow, that is an impressive lineup.
It is. So let's start with ecotropia. What's the core idea here?
Okay, well, the basic idea is that sound has this really profound impact on our psyche, our energy, even our connection to the universe. And he starts by talking about Carl Jung, famous for his work on the collective unconscious.
Right.
Well, Jung believed that certain musical patterns could actually tap into these universal archetypes that are buried in our subconscious, and that these could evoke really powerful emotional responses.
I can definitely see that. Like certain pieces of music, they just hit you on such a deep level.
Yeah, exactly. And then he talks about Brian Eno, the pioneer of ambient music. Well, Eno was really fascinated by how sound could influence our mood and mental state.
I feel like a lot of people are into ambient music these days.
Yeah, it's really popular. So Eno, he thought that these carefully crafted soundscapes could actually induce states of relaxation or focus or even altered consciousness.
Almost like a sonic therapy.
Yeah, exactly. Then there's Sri Aurobindo. He was an Indian philosopher and yogi.
Okay.
And he saw music as this tool for spiritual transformation.
Interesting.
Yeah, he believed that sound could help us elevate our consciousness and help us access a deeper reality, a realm beyond kind of our everyday perception.
That's pretty deep.
It is. And then just to show how diverse these influences are, he also brings up Sun Ra, the avant-garde jazz musician, known for his Afrofuturism.
Yeah.
Well, Sun Ra used music to explore themes of identity and freedom, really pushing the boundaries of musical expression.
Wow. So he's bringing together psychologists, musicians, philosophers, yogis.
Yeah. And what's so fascinating is that each of these thinkers, in their own way, they all point to the power of music to transcend the ordinary and connect us to something larger than ourselves.
It's like Sir Louis Siciliano is building a case for music as a force that shapes not just our individual experiences, but an understanding of the universe itself.
Absolutely. And all of this leads us to some of the more philosophical and societal implications that he brings up in the episode, specifically his ideas about the Dignity Hotel and the quantum revolution.
Okay, those sound intriguing. I think we need to take a little break, though, before we dive into those ideas. We'll be back in a moment to explore those concepts and more. Welcome back. I'm still thinking about those connections between music, math, and consciousness.
Yeah, it's pretty mind-blowing stuff.
It is. So in this episode, Sir Louis Siciliano, he doesn't just explore these abstract ideas, he also gets really personal.
Oh, how so?
He talks about his idea for a Dignity Hotel, which I thought was really fascinating. What do you think about it?
It's a powerful idea for sure. He wants to create this space, not a typical shelter, but a place where people experiencing homelessness can find support, a sense of community.
Yeah.
And it all revolves around artistic and cultural events.
Oh, wow.
So it's about restoring dignity and empowering people through creative expression.
I like that.
Yeah.
He even talks about funding it through collaborations with companies and startups.
Right, like the symbiosis between art and entrepreneurship.
Yeah. Using art to address these social challenges is beautiful.
Yeah.
And then he goes on to connect this idea to a quantum revolution.
Now that sounds a little out there.
I know, but just hear me out. He uses quantum revolution to describe a shift in consciousness,
Okay.
like moving away from material values and moving towards a world where creativity, compassion, and respect are the driving forces.
A pretty radical shift.
It is, but I kind of like it.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought for sure. But what does this have to do with quantum physics?
Well, he draws these parallels to the idea that particles can exist in multiple states at the same time. And he suggests that we have the power to shape reality with our thoughts and intentions.
So like the power of manifestation.
In a way, yeah. He believes that if enough people embrace this vision of a more compassionate world, if we all imagine it, it can become reality.
The power of collective consciousness.
Exactly. But how does music fit into all of this?
Well, he sees music as this catalyst for change.
Okay.
He believes that music can awaken our consciousness and connect us to something bigger than ourselves and inspire us to act with compassion and love.
It's a beautiful vision.
Yeah.
But does he acknowledge that the world doesn't always reflect these ideals?
Oh, he does. He's really open about his own struggles. He even describes himself as a monk.
A monk.
Yeah, like an ascetic, someone who's dedicated his life to music.
Wow.
Even if it means sacrificing personal comfort or financial stability.
So he's really committed to his art.
He is. He even admits that his dedication to his music has kind of come at a cost, especially when it comes to supporting his children.
Wow. That's a really honest admission.
Yeah, it is. And it really shows just how deeply he believes in the power of music. He talks about feeling like an alien in a world that's obsessed with money and status.
Can you elaborate on that?
Well, he uses this phrase, living in vertical.
Living in vertical, what does that even mean?
It's like he's saying that he's always connected to something larger than himself.
Okay.
Like a higher purpose that guides his actions.
I kind of get that. Like you're
Yeah.
not bound by the limitations of everyday reality.
Yeah, exactly.
You're reaching for something more, something transcendent.
Exactly. And he's honest about the pain and the struggles he's experienced along the way. But he also emphasizes the strength he's found in his art.
So music is his anchor.
You could say that. He calls music a curative art, even a quantum medicine.
Quantum medicine.
Yeah, he believes that it can heal and transform not just individuals, but society as a whole.
It's a powerful belief. It makes me wonder if you've ever felt that kind of pull towards something.
Towards something.
Yeah, like something you were so passionate about, you're willing to give up everything else for it.
Well, I think anyone who's truly passionate about their work can relate to that.
Yeah, I guess so. It takes a certain level of commitment, of selflessness, to bring something meaningful into the world.
Exactly. And that passion that shines through in everything Sir Louis Siciliano says. It's clear that music isn't just a job for him. It's his life.
Yeah, you can definitely feel that. He talks about feeling this sense of responsibility to share his music with the world, to spread his message of compassion and respect and love.
It's like he sees music as this force that can unite us, a cosmic law that transcends differences and connects us to something greater than ourselves.
Yeah, I get that. And what's so interesting is that he doesn't just see this as a purely spiritual thing. He brings science into it, citing quantum physics as evidence that we can shape reality with our thoughts.
So it's not just wishful thinking.
He doesn't think so. He believes that we have the power to change the world through the transformative power of art and love and consciousness. It's about recognizing that everything is interconnected and using that knowledge to make a positive impact.
It's a pretty bold statement,
Right.
but it's also really hopeful.
Yeah, it is. Now, another thing that really stood out to me in this episode was the bibliography he includes at the end.
The bibliography.
Yeah, it's huge. It's this treasure trove of resources on music, synesthesia, cosmology, artificial intelligence, genetics. I mean, you name it, it's in there.
Wow, that's quite a reading list.
It is. What's really striking is the breadth and depth of his reading.
Yeah, it's clear that he draws inspiration from so many different disciplines.
Right. It's like he's inviting us to go on our own intellectual journeys, using his bibliography as a guide.
I like that. So what are some of the categories he includes?
Well, he starts with music, of course,
Naturally.
and he lists everything from technical books on composition to more philosophical explorations of music's meaning. And then he has a whole section on synesthesia.
Synesthesia.
Yeah, it's that phenomenon where you experience one sense through another, like seeing sounds as colors.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
It's clear he's really fascinated by how our senses work together to create a richer experience of the world.
That's really interesting. What else?
He even includes algorithms and artificial intelligence, suggesting that these technologies could be used for creativity, to push the boundaries of music.
Oh, so it's not about technology replacing human creativity.
No, it's about enhancing it, amplifying it.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then, of course, there's cosmology and quantum physics, reflecting his belief that music is connected to the fabric of the universe.
Right, right. So he sees it as this force that runs through all levels of existence.
Exactly. And he doesn't stop there. He has categories on fractals and chaos theory, genetics, cognitive theories, and energy and sustainability. I mean, it's a truly interdisciplinary approach.
It is. So it really speaks to his belief that we need to break down the barriers between different fields of study if we want to understand the world.
Absolutely. He even includes astrophysics, string theory, and biology. It's like he's saying that music is this lens through which we can explore these fundamental questions about existence and the universe and reality itself.
Wow. So for him, music is the key that unlocks all these mysteries.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It's clear that he's a lifelong learner, someone who's always looking for new knowledge and making these connections between seemingly unrelated fields.
Yeah, he seems like a really curious person.
He is. And by sharing this massive bibliography, it's like he's inviting us to join him on this journey of exploration, to expand our horizons and discover all these possibilities that exist at the intersection of music, science, philosophy, and the human spirit.
It's a really inspiring invitation. So as we move towards the final part of our deep dive, I'm curious, what's resonated with you the most from this episode so far?
What really sticks with me is his unwavering belief in the transformative power of music, not just for individuals, but for society as a whole.
Yeah.
And his personal story, his struggles and triumphs, they make it all the more powerful.
I agree. And what's exciting is that he doesn't just present these ideas, he challenges us to act on them, to embrace our own creativity, to use our voices to make a difference, and to be a part of this quantum revolution.
So as we wrap up this part, I think the question we all need to ask ourselves is, how can we use the power of music to create positive change in our own lives and in the world around us? And we'll explore that question further in part 3, so stay tuned. Welcome back. We've journeyed through Sir Louis Siciliano's sound cosmology, explored MUMEx, his approach to music education.
And we dove deep into his fascinating connections between music and math.
And let's not forget his personal reflections on the power of music to heal and transform.
It's been a lot to take in. But now as we wrap up our deep dive, I think it's time to shift gears.
Shift gears?
Yeah. From exploration to application. Oh, I see what you mean.
Like, what does all this mean for us? How can we actually take these ideas and use them in our own lives?
That's a great question. He does give us a lot to think about.
He does. And he really wants us to go beyond just thinking. He challenges us to become active participants in this quantum revolution he talks about.
A revolution fueled by creativity and compassion and love. But where do we even begin? It all feels so big.
Well, remember MUMEx, his approach to music education.
Yeah.
It's not just for kids.
It's not.
No. It's a framework for how we can engage with music throughout our lives, to really understand how powerful it can be. So even if we don't have a formal MUMEx program, we can still use its principles. We can listen to different kinds of music, experiment with making our own sounds, pay attention to how music makes us feel.
Yeah.
And it's not just about listening. It's about active engagement, playing an instrument, singing, dancing, or just listening with intention.
So really being present with the music. Exactly. And he also encourages us to pay attention to the math in music.
Oh yeah, those hidden patterns, the Fibonacci sequences.
Yeah.
Huh?
Like, what if music reflects a deeper order in the universe? A cosmic harmony?
It's a pretty mind-blowing idea.
It is.
Yeah.
And then there's his concept of the Dignity Hotel, using art and music to help those experiencing homelessness.
Yeah. It's a beautiful idea.
It is. He reminds us that we all have gifts to share, our own unique voices, and these voices can make a real difference.
So whether it's through music, art, words, actions, or even just our presence, we all have something to contribute.
Exactly. We're all notes in this grand symphony,
Yeah.
and together we can create a more harmonious world.
That's a great way to put it. As we close out our deep dive, I'm feeling a mix of awe and empowerment.
Awe and empowerment.
Yeah, awe as for Louis Siciliano's vision.
Yeah.
And empowerment because he reminds us that we're not just bystanders. We have the power to shape our reality.
He does, and that's a really powerful message.
It is. And I hope this deep dive has inspired you to explore music in new ways. And to maybe even think about how you can use it to make the world a better place. Thank you for joining us.